Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. This is our second conversation, and we are joined by representatives of the KHMH Workers Union. They're here to speak to us about a range of issues that they have been voicing. We've also provided a coverage of that on our newscasts, where pensions are concerned for them, and of course several other issues that they are in negotiations with the government as well. We are joined this morning by the president of the KHMH AWU, that's Andrew Baird, and also the vice president and PR of the KHMA-WU as well. That's Dr. Elaine Gonzalez. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
We are much obliged to be here on the show, Open Your Eyes. And first of all, I want to say good morning to all the warriors at the KHMH Memorial Hospital Workers Union. And when I say warriors, I mean patient care and in supporting the union. Mm-hmm. And then also good morning to the Belizean listeners and viewers out there. And I hope we have a wonderful day today.
Let's begin by establishing what is the present issue at hand. We're talking about pensions, but what makes this such a controversial issue for both the unionists and of course the government of Belize?
Well, as for most part, this has been a struggle for us for basically over 5-6 years or so since the union have started lobbying with the government for pension to be paid for workers who have worked in pensionable service since 2000, when the KHMH Memorial Hospital become a statutory body or authority, to be corrected. And the KHMH Act speaks of the employees being pensionable, or the authority should have developed a provident fund at that time. Whether it be the government or the authority in combination had the responsibility, it was not done. So when a provident fund was developed in 2017, it was mandatory for all new workers as of January 1st, 2018, for them to be part of that provident fund, which is contributory, 3% by the employee and 4% by the employers. Now, using the benchmark of 2017, what happened to the workers' services from 2000 to 2017, where there was no provident fund, there was no pension scheme in place? Those workers should have, according to KHMH Act, in Section 8, it states that the workers at KHMH is pensionable in accordance with the Pension Act. So our claim is for those services. The terms and conditions for the workers at that time did not include any contributory fund or so. So when the provident fund started, it was not mandatory for those all employees to join. It was optional, as stated by KHMH. Some have joined, some have not. So even if we use the benchmark of 2017 for those who have joined, what about those who did not join? Their services, and they're still presently working at KHMH, their services continue to be pensionable at this present time. So that is what we are dialoguing with the government. I remember when the present government came in 2020, we sat with the Prime Minister prior and after they came into government, and he promised to formulate a committee, which he did. The committee goal was to come up with whatever agreement would be made between the government and the union as far as the pension is concerned. From day one, our position is that we want full pension, and we have always said that we are open to flexibility. Nevertheless, we had to, over the years, we had a series of demonstrations and different industrial actions trying to put the pressure on the government so that this agreement could come to a conclusion, or this dialoguing could come to a conclusion. Our last meeting was February of 2017. At that meeting, it was stated that a template would be made of which the CEO of KHMH did the template and presented via email to the FinSec and all other parties that is involved. This FinSec have failed to answer to approve the template that was designed by the CEO.
You said
This
the
was
last
three-
meeting
no,
was
Sorry,
20.
it was
No, sorry.
February 17th.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
February. Okay.
It's February,
I was
not
gonna say-
2017.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
February 17th of this year.
This year.
So, break it down for me in terms of the actual number of union members who are affected by this, against the fact that perhaps those who will be coming in on board at the KHMH will already be signing on to this Providence Fund.
So we have basically about 700 workers at KHMH.
Yeah.
Of that 700 workers total, we have about 350 union members. Give and take maybe a bit more. And of that, majority of those members are older members that are also members that are needing to get the pension. So about 320 of our members or KHMH workers are the ones who are supposed to be in the pensionable bracket right now. Not the whole 700, because a lot of our workers are younger workers as well. So the ones who are fighting for, the ones who have been there, as Mr. Bain mentioned, since 2000 to 2017 and have no compensation at all for what they have worked for during that time.
Since that meeting in February, what has been conversations in between? We know that last year, or it was earlier this year, we covered a demonstration that took place at the KHMH as
Right.
well. What has been the outcome of that? Are we seeing progress where the government is saying, we're going to revisit this and meet you halfway?
At the table at the February 17th meeting, it was agreed upon that once the template was formulated, that a meeting would be held in 3 weeks' time, whether it be virtual or face-to-face.
Okay.
The government have failed to have that meeting. And that, again, is one of the reasons that triggered us last week to come up with a plan of action to force the government back to the table. The workers of KHMH and union members, we do not want our plan of action have to extend to where we have to send in 21 days notice of strike action, even to go slow or to work to rule. So the government can determine what will happen next. We receive a letter after we have sent out our plan of action from the government. Last week, Tuesday, we received a letter from the government stating that they want to come back to the table to dialogue. That meeting is tomorrow.
Okay.
And I will use that meeting to say that will be the determining factor as to whether we have to go into phase 2 or level 2 of our plan of action.
But just let me say this though, Sabrina. It seems as every time we want to have a meeting with the government, we have to go to demonstration. Because the last meeting that we had was February 17th, right before election. And the meeting that we're having now again is because we're demonstrating again. The thing with the government is that we have communicated with them 3 times and they have lacked to communicate back with us. They haven't returned our emails, they haven't come back to us. And so we're like, but wait, these people are not taking us serious.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so this is why we get to the point of demonstrating and doing the plan of action, because we want to make sure that we are being heard. Our hospital is the #1 referral hospital in the entire country. We see patients from north to south, east to west.
The only tertiary.
The only tertiary hospital. As a matter of fact, all the other public hospitals in the country are pensionable.
Yeah.
All the health centers are pensionable. We're public servants as well, so why can't we be deserving of our pension? We pay our 25% tax just as all the other institutions, and we are not deserving of our pension. So we just say that we that have been there, that have been through COVID, that have been through all the trenches and have stick to the work, we think that we at this time should be deserving of our pension, just as all the other public servants that are getting pension as well.
So, you've put forward your plan of action, and almost immediately, the Labor Department, via the Commissioner, came forward and said, look, if you proceed in this particular manner, there will be consequences if you don't adhere to the fact that, one, you guys are essential services and you fall within a certain category. How do you respond to that? Because in a sense now you find yourself stuck between a rock and a hard place. You have an issue before you, but they're telling you that if you go ahead and do this, There will be hell to pay.
Let me start by asking the question. This is not the first time that we have demonstrated.
Definitely not.
And at no other point in time, the LC came out and said, listen, we are going to guide you because you're taking illegal actions, or your demonstrations are illegal. I believe that, and I always want to start by saying this before I have maximum respect for the Labor Commissioner, but I believe that she misinterpreted the Essential Service and Dispute Act. Why I say that? If you go to section 11(1) of that act, it stated that any party, meaning any party that has a dispute, can make a report to the Minister of Labor, and it said may. So in law, may gives you an option as to whether or not you want to do that. So we choose to wait down the road as a part of our phase action to send in 21 days notice of action. So we are within the confines of what the law said. Then the Labor Commissioner went on to interpret the meaning of strike as it within the said act, stating that the meaning of strike in the act stated that it means cessation of work. Last time I checked, cessation of work means to stop work completely. So by the virtue of us doing a demonstration, even if we go slow or work to rule, we are not striking, we are not stopped. The work has not stopped. And I want to make this clear. Whenever we have a demonstration and take any type of action, it is a responsible industrial action that we take. Why I say that? Because the services of Carlutional have never been interrupted. Have we heard the management of Carlutional say that while we were demonstrating and taking different action, that the service was interrupted? Have any member of the general public complains that because of our strike actions or industrial actions, that they could not receive services at the institution?
What I'd like to
As a
highlight.
matter of fact, though, just let me put this in there. We did go through the legal revenue to go and do this demonstration. We went to the police station, we got our documents and everything. It was signed by a JP, and we did have our legal documents, and the police was even out there accompanying us as well. And as a matter of fact, as Mr. Baird had mentioned, we have so much workers at KHMH that when we do these demonstrations, the ones who come out to demonstrate are the ones who are not working.
Yes.
So we do it, for example, the last one was at 3 o'clock. We have 3 hours, we have 3 8-hour shifts. So the ones who are not working are the ones who come out and demonstrate in that time that we do our demonstration.
So it doesn't disrupt
so
the
we
service.
never disrupt the service. In no area of the hospital do we ever disrupt the service.
Do you think that we're trying to intimidate you all?
Certainly. Certainly. But we shall not be moved.
My question to you guys is the timing of this latest demonstration. We followed the first one or the more recent one in February, but the timing right now seems to be in a critical space where the government has to be negotiating with several other unions as well. We've also seen where the Belize National Teachers Union is demonstrating and spreading their concerns and their demands for their own issues within the teaching sphere. Is it intentional for you guys to be demonstrating at this particular time?
No.
No.
And certainly we're not piggybacking off of anybody. If you notice, all of our demonstrations have always been on our time when we believe that we are not getting adequate response from the government.
We're not being heard.
Of course, there are other things such as we have seen recently where the government have added the Coast Guard to the government pension. They are deserving. I'm not going to take away from the Coast Guard. Even with the teachers, we have seen the government have added completely. All teachers is now being pensionable by the government because there was a grant-aided school where those grant-aided management was supposed to pay a certain percentage for their pension and the government pay the other percentage. Now the government have took that on as a full package. But they are telling us that because they are near starting a contributory pension for public officers, they cannot add nobody else into the cookie jar. But you are doing that. That's an insult to us. No, we're supposed to be equally equal as the teachers or any other public
Or even the
officers.
other hospitals, you
Right.
spoke
Yeah.
of that.
Right.
Other healthcare facilities.
Yeah, as a national referral center, we even do more because when the southern regional, northern regional hospitals cannot take care of the critically ill patients, they are transferred to Kalushna.
Let's take a look at
Every
that
day.
then, Mr. Baird. When we look at nurses in particular, where we know for a fact there's a shortage, are they expressing why they're staying at the KHMH, which is the only tertiary level hospital, the busiest for sure, but they could go to another hospital, another health facility and get pensions for less of their work? Are they talking about that?
I think for one, most nurses come to Kalushna because of the knowledge and experience that is being gained there as a national referral center and a tertiary institution. Not to say that experiences are not gained at the other institution, but if you really want to be rounded, Kalushna is the place for any nurse to start from and eventually. Then location, there are some nurses from the district who works at Kalushna, but for the most part, most of the employees at Kalushna are from the city.
But
How
as
much
a
of
matter
this
of fact,
issue-
as a matter of fact, though, one of the highest turnover of employers that we have are nurses. Because if you would ask a nurse whether they would prefer to work at KHMH or at a health center that would provide them with pension, they would always choose the health center. Even though our hospital or institution provide knowledge and I guess a more hands-on experience, they would choose that over it, and they would stay maybe with us for a couple of months or years, and then they would transfer maybe to a health center, or many of our nurses as well go abroad.
You have to,
Because
you
there's
have to
not a
go with what
proper-
makes
there's not a
long-term
proper-
sense.
There's not
Yeah.
a proper retention package. So many of our nurses and even doctors and other staff would go abroad to seek
So that could speak
employment.
to the challenge as well.
Here's my question. How much of this would be attributed to the fact that the KHMH is a quasi-government body as opposed to perhaps fully private or fully
Fully
public?
government.
Well, if you deal with the government on that question, the government will tell you Kalushna is an authority and they stand on their own, but we know the facts that is not true. Kalushna lives on a subvention
33 million.
from the government. Without that subvention, Kalushna will never survive.
Right.
Because we do not have a focus of finances that we are sure of that comes to the institution. People just doesn't pay their bill because we are grown in that culture that Kalushna is a government hospital and it's free because people pay taxes, right? But the long haul is that I believe as an authority, the government should allow Kalushna to speak directly to the ministry or the Minister of Finance for its finances so that it can function adequately. If it is that it costs $100 million to run Kalushna per annum, give Kalushna that $100 million and let them run.
Let's digress for a second. And I'm speaking from an outsider's perspective here. I think part of the issue when we listen to what's happening at KHMH is the fact that there's all this money out there that the KHMH should be able to collect on for services that have been rendered to patients who seek treatment at that facility. So, if I'm not mistaken, just fairly recently, perhaps at the top of the new year, X amount of millions were written off as debts or outstanding balances that will never be collected, right? My question is, when you look at all of that and the fact that you're essentially surviving on a subvention, isn't it time for there to be some kind of reform at KHMH where you have to actively go after collecting these monies, and perhaps that makes the KHMH more viable,
more sustainable,
or sustainable?
That will take the political will. Look at what the government did with the write-off. One would think because they understand that the Kalushna Memorial Hospital needs finances, that when they write off, even if they did not give Kalushna $35 million, because the write-off was about $35 million, at least man give Kalushna $25 million out to compensate for that write-off so that they can function. No money was exchanged. It was a write-off, a political write-off just before the election, right? And that we do not need that in this day and time for institutions such as KHMH. KHMH need to be properly financed so that it can function.
It's difficult though, because at the end of the day, you render your service,
Right.
so do you, and all the other employees of the KHMH, they go to work. It's almost as if, say for instance, I work here at GBM. I come to work every day. I do what I'm supposed to do to the best of my ability. Now, it's not within my remit to be able to go out there and sell the ads and collect the money for the ads. That's not what I'm hired to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when certain things affect my salary or my livelihood, then I should have a legitimate concern to bring forward. I say that simply because at the end of the day, you guys do your work. Whether or not KHMH is able to collect on those outstanding balances is not necessarily your concern.
Right.
You perform your surgery, you do your work, and you ought to be taken care of not only for now, but in the long term up to when it comes to retirement and beyond.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So again, the battle will continue because, as I said, the government doesn't want to come back to the table with us, but we have a meeting tomorrow with them, and let's see if that meeting will be more productive.
What do you anticipate to come out of that meeting?
Well, we already have our stance that we want our pension. That's what we want. We want the government to come clearly to us and tell us you will get pension or you won't get pension. And if you won't get pension, then let's do this compensation package. For too long, we've been asking for a pension and we are still waiting for a definitive answer to see if we'll get our pension or not. We at the workers, we at the KHMH Workers WU Union, we want pension. That's our mandate. Our mandate from our members is to go and fight for the pension. For the 300 and plus workers that haven't been compensated since 2000 to 2017. So again, tomorrow will determine from that meeting what will happen, but if we continue with our next phase of action.
My final question for you guys is circling back to a question that Sabrina raised earlier, right? This is essentially about bringing pressure to bear on the government of the day when you look at the fact that you have the Public Service Union, the Association of Public Service Senior Managers,
Right.
the Belize National Teachers Union, the UBFSU,
Like six union.
and now the KHMH Workers Union, all with a bone of contention regarding some adjustment or some pension or subvention.
But-
How do you continue this particular pressure to get what you deserve?
Listen, let me start by saying this. If the government was a responsible government,
CEO.
the issue of this pension and the KHMH workers would have been behind us, because it's been for so long that we are trying to lobby to get what we rightly deserve. So whether be it that all the unions are clamoring the government for some type of financial adjustment or so, our pressure continues, and like we say, tomorrow meeting determine whether we go into the next phase of action. And I want to make it clear, the workers at KHMH are not joking. They are very serious around this time about getting their pension. Just like how the government meet with the teacher or the joint unions, and they table a position or a counter position to them, we are saying do the same with us. You all know our position already, that we are there for pension. Come back with your counter position so we can go back to our members and let them know what the government is thinking or is saying, and then we go from there to state whether or not we accept whatever is put on the table. That is all we are asking for, and then we go from there. The easiest way for the government to settle this issue with us, is for the Prime Minister to take the political will, go to the Governor General and said, for the purpose of pension in accordance with the Constitution of Belize, we are going to classify KHMH as others, because in the Constitution it speaks of public officers and others. We could be deemed as others for the purpose of pension by the virtue of the work that we do. We are either public servants, or like my good friend Nurse Blake would say, the former president, servants of the public.
Yeah.
The point is, when you make the comparison of what Western Regional, Northern Regional, Southern Regional, and Central Regional do, we do the same work, even more how comes they deserve to be pensionable
And
and
we're
we are not? So take the political will, Mr. Prime Minister. Go to the Governor General and deem us public officers and put us into the jar, the cookie jar, and this matter resolved tomorrow by doing that.
All right, well, we'll definitely follow up on that as soon as that meeting takes place. Gentlemen, we wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Serena.
All right, before we take another quick break, we have a motivational quote for you this morning. Now, this morning's motivational quote is from Oprah Winfrey, and it says, "If you look at what you have in life, you'll always have more. If you look at what you don't have in life, you'll never have enough." Alrighty, now we take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be learning more about the Partners in Education Scholarship Program by the Belize Hotel Association. Don't go away.